Welcome to the Wake Up and Unleash podcast for women who've experienced success but are now in a frustrating plateau, feeling stuck and alone. For women who are ready to take their business to another level without sacrificing what matters most, our health, our family, and our sanity. So, through real discussions and raw dialogue, we'll share tools and strategies to break that plateau and unleash your power and fire so that you can crush it in business and in life. Here's your host, Karla Sandoval.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Wake Up and Unleash. This is Karla Sandoval, your entrepreneur and leadership coach. Have you ever wondered why some people, no matter what they do, no matter what adventure they go down, no matter what entrepreneurship, adventure, what business, what project they take on, it just seems like they always have success with it? Have you ever wondered why is it that there are some people that do you feel like, oh gosh, they just have it in them? Like they're just gifted or special talent, or I don't know, they got the lucky charm or something like that. So I haven't really given this question a lot of thought, whatever. But I haven't really thought about it that much until this last week. So I have been, reading the Bible every morning, and I don't understand half of the time what I'm reading. Nevertheless, I do my best. And the other day I was on Netflix and I saw that they have this documentary or this series of Moses. And I started watching it. And I got to tell you, if you haven't seen it, I really recommend you go watch it. It was very insightful. And the reason why it was insightful was, one, because of the story itself, but inside of the story, like so many Bible stories, there are so many life, leadership, resilience lessons inside of it. But I'm going to grab one of them. Okay. Now, this is my own interpretation of what I saw and how I decided to apply this to my life. Okay. So when I was watching it, okay, so if you don't know, Moses was, born and then put into the little basket and taken down the river. And then the Egyptian princess got him and then made him her son. And then he grew up in that environment and he killed somebody. So then he left and then he went and became a humble person again. And then he went up to this mountain one day and God said, spoke to him and said for him to lead, to help the Israelites get out of Egypt. And it was not an easy task. He had, and then also God told him, talk to Pharaoh. And he was like, Pharaoh is not going to let these guys out of Egypt. And God said, no, it's not going to be easy. And so anyhow, go watch the movie, okay? Or read the Bible story. But what I got from it was that God knew that it wasn't going to be easy. And God put so many obstacles in the way of Moses helping the Israelites get out of Egypt. Confrontation after confrontation with Pharaoh and all these things, right? Then finally, after so much stuff that happened, Pharaoh finally said, okay, go. And now they're free. So here's Moses taking the Israelites out of Egypt, going to the promised land. And sometimes we can think okay, I am free. Here we go. Life is I don't know, and listen, I've been there where I've thought the sky's going to part, the light's going to come down and everything's going to be okay. But here's what happens. Yes, they are free, but they get obstacle after obstacle. They don't have food. They don't have water. All these challenges started to face. And as I was watching this, I was thinking, wow, this is a symbol. This is how life is. A door opens, AKA they were allowed to get out of Egypt. And we think okay, a door opens, an opportunity opens, a new job, a new business, a new venture, a new client, a new husband, a new date, something that you have wanted so much. Like these Israelites wanted to be free. And all of a sudden they are free. And we think okay, I got the business, I got the job, I got the girl, I got the guy. And we now think that everything is going to be okay. Or in a lot of times for me, we think okay, it's going to be an express ride from here. I got what I wanted, only to find out that although a door opened, that doesn't mean it's going to be an easy ride. It doesn't mean that it's going to be easy to get to, AKA the promised land. And as I was watching this, I was thinking, isn't that the truth? We start a business and think, okay, this is it, I've made it, only to find out that there are so many obstacles that are in the way, challenges, financials, cash flow, employees, supplies, etc. So many things that we, although we knew that we were going to have to face, like they knew going to the desert was not going to be easy. They had never been there. They didn't know. I mean, it's the desert. They knew that there were going to be possible challenges, but we never really comprehend and understand the depth or the intensity of those challenges. And as I was watching this, I'm like thinking, my gosh, how many times do we think that once we achieve X, Y, and Z, that it's all going to be like glorious after that, only to find out that that thing that we wanted only brought more adversity than before. That thing that we were going after only brought more challenges than before, more suffering, more unknown, more, in this case, pain, uncertainty. And in that moment, we're being tested. In that moment, it's like God is really saying, like, do you have faith? Do you believe? And, and so that was one of the lessons that I got. It's like, just because a door opened does not mean that it's going to be like you're going to hit home runs every time. Just because you were given a bat and a ball and an opportunity to play baseball does not mean you're not going to strike out. Does not mean you're not going to, get an out. It does not mean they're not going to tag you and you're out of the game. Like, it doesn't mean that you're going to hit a home run every time. And I feel that so many times that's what gets us out of the game. Is the doubt, is the uncertainty. It's the thought that it should have been easy. The thought that in this case, that they are now free, only to realize that they became, although they were slaves before, now they're free, but now they're like, they're slaves now to the circumstance of what? No water, no food, I think for like 3 or 4 days or something like that. And as I was sitting there listening and watching this, I was like thinking, my gosh, how many times has this happened to us, right? But then here's the other lesson that then I thought, right? Like, so many times we wonder, what does it take for somebody to have amount of success? And why is it that some people, no matter what they touch, it's like they have the Midas touch? And after watching this, I really got into touch with, God chose Moses. Yes, when he was born, they said there was light and all this other stuff. Like, he was the chosen one, but he had quite the temper. He had, his wife would say sometimes, like, you need to like control your temper and don't let your, your temperament like get out of control. Because he would have these bursts of anger. I guess you could say, some people might say he has anger issues. But here's what I got after I watched it. I'm like, yes, although he had a temperament, like he went up and they had the 10 commandments, and then he came back and he threw the rocks and where he had, done the 10 commandments on, and they broke, right? Because of what he saw that they had done. And in that moment, I was like, dang, he was gone for 40 days and 40 nights. And in 2 seconds, he throws these stones down the cliff and they broke, like, because he was so angry. And in that moment, you guys, I thought, you know what? That is why God called on him, because he's not somebody who has a weak heart. He's not a faint of heart. He's not somebody who is easily persuaded. Like, he knew what he was going after. And even though Pharaoh said no and no and no and no and no and no and no, he never gave up. He didn't care. He went against all odds. When they told him, come this way, he's like, no, let's go this way. And then he was found with the sea. And then they were like, Moses, what did you do? You brought us here and there's nowhere to go. All there is this water. And then boom, the sea parted. They went, they were able to get to the other side. But it's like, if he was easily influenced by his peers, he would have not been able to achieve what he achieved. And so what I got from that was, number one, yes, adversity will always come with opportunity. And the reason why, like, he was able to accomplish what he was able to accomplish, or why people accomplish what they can accomplish, is because they are passionate human beings. They're driven, resilient. They're not easily influenced by others. Even when it doesn't seem promising, they don't give up, right? Like, there was a time, and you guys don't like quote me on all of this, okay? I'm just telling you how I got it, but like, they were going, and then there was no water, no food, and so they were going, I don't know, south, right, to the promised land. All of a sudden, he's like, detour. We got to go back to Mount Sinai. And and his brother Aaron's like, what are you doing? We have to go. I think this is right. Have to go south, and you want to go back north? Like, and Moses is like, yes, I need to go back to the mountain. I need to speak to him. He's not talking to me. And he literally like tells everybody, we're going north. Now, so many people could have been like, are you crazy? No, we're going south. And he'd have been like, okay, well, but he's like, no, do as I say. And he was like unwavering in what he was up to. And he was determined, even if it meant going back a little bit. And so back they go, up the mountain he goes again, and he's demanding to God to speak to him and telling him, I'm not through. You've got to help me. And demanded for him to respond. And the way that I took that, it's like, if he was a faint of heart and been like, okay, well, you know what, you guys, let's just go south. Let's see what happens. Let's cross our fingers, right? They would have not made it. But because he was so, quote unquote, well, I'm just going to say, he was very passionate about his mission and what he was up to. He didn't waver like the other people wanted him to. He didn't follow. He was leading. And as leaders, as entrepreneurs, that's what we get to do. We get to say, this is where we're going. And sometimes what we're up to doesn't make sense to others. It doesn't make sense. Why you do what you do, okay? It doesn't make sense. But here's the deal. It doesn't have to make sense to anybody but you. As long as you know what you're up to, you know what it is that you want, and you know where you're going, you don't have to always have the agreement of those around you, because sometimes they don't understand, they don't see, they don't hear, and they don't feel what you're hearing, feeling, and seeing. They just don't. I'll share something with you on Sunday, I think it was. Yeah, Sunday or Saturday, one of those 2 days, I was sharing with my husband a couple of things. And, he has a way of thinking very different than I do. And a lot of the times he's right. Okay. But listen, he might be right, but it might not be right for me. And so I was sharing some things with him, and he got like a little passionate. Okay. My husband is definitely not somebody who's faint of heart. Okay. Which is why Sergio, anything that he does it so well. No matter what he does, what project he takes on, he gives it his all. He has a lot of passion, a lot of determination, a lot of drive, a lot of will, a lot of resilience. He doesn't give up. And I was sharing that with him. I was like, after watching this Moses documentary or series, I was like, yeah, I understand, honey, why you are the way you are, why you are so passionate, why you achieve what you achieve. Because others might think you have an anger issue, which, my husband's, has a temperament, okay? But that's what it takes sometimes. Like, doesn't mean you have to be rude, but you have to have that internal fire to say, I'm going after this no matter what. Whether people agree, they don't agree, I'm going. And so many times we don't take okay, so I'm just going to say me. I was sharing with him that that's how I achieved so much success in my early years. Go back and listen to episode 1 if you haven't, but I achieved a lot of success very fast at a very young age. And if I come to think about how I did that, yes, I worked hard, but also I had this burning desire. With everything that I was doing, I gave it my all. I had this hearts of fire. Like, there was so much fire in my heart. And here's the deal, okay? When you're like that and you're so, I'm just going to say intense, some people are going to love it. They're going to be like, yeah, that's my jam. And my fire that I had, okay? Just imagine I had this fire right in my chest, okay? Some people would come near me and they found it warm. Okay? They found it soothing. Like it's scary, but this is going to keep me warm. AKA, they wanted to be around me. They wanted to be in my proximity. Although they were like a little like, oh my gosh, is this going to burn me? But I like it. Okay? Like those were the people that were around me and that we built a really big business with. Then there were those people that they felt my fire and they were like, oh, this is too much. She's going to burn me. Same fire, same flame, different result. One person finds it warm. The other person finds it intimidating and scary. One person thinks this is going to warm me up. The other person thinks this is going to burn me up. And it's the same fire. It's just two different people with two different outcomes, two different perspectives, and their resilience is very different. I don't want to call one weak, but well, I'm going to call them. They're like weak. They're scary. I'm not for them. And here's the deal. When that happens, if you're listening to this, I probably can assume a lot of you guys can relate, where you've got this fire, you've got this drive, and then people start saying things to us, and all of a sudden you start to like a stove, you start to bring down the fire from high to medium to eventually low. And like the fire is there, but it's making the water lukewarm. Where before your fire was high, it would boil up the water. So it created all this movement. It created all this, like this fire within you allowed all these results to occur. Where this tiny little fire just keeps the water warm. It makes the water lukewarm. But it will take a lot of time, and sometimes it's not enough to make it boil. And that's how my life was, you guys. I achieved so much success because, like Moses, I was determined and I was like, I'm just going to say it. Some people thought I was rude because I had a lot of determination and I was unwavering. My standards were so high that if you didn't when you came into my business and if you were not ready to go, I didn't waste time. I wouldn't waste time with you trying to convince you, trying to persuade you. It was like, here's an opportunity. Do you want it? Yes or no? Now, that doesn't mean I wouldn't give them information. Like somebody would say like, okay, well, that sounds interesting. Can I have some more information? Absolutely. But if somebody was like, well, I don't know, maybe if you convince me, I was like, literally, you guys, I would be like, okay, well, maybe next time. Okay. But here's the deal, because I was some people would say cutthroat. Okay. Yes, I get it. I was super young. I was 23 years old. I didn't have emotional intelligence. I probably didn't have the right way of saying things, but the mindset was legitimately on point. Okay. Which is why I achieved so much success, because I didn't allow people's comments to derail me. I listen, I was dating a guy at the time, and I remember him saying, you're not a normal girlfriend. I was like, okay, see you, peace out, bye. And we broke up. Like, I wasn't so concerned about what other people felt about me or thought about me. I just wasn't. And then along the way, life happens. The door opened. And I walked through that door of success thinking that I was going to be in a paradise, that the birds were going to be singing, the sun was going to come down, and everything was going to be so magical. Okay? Only to find out that that door of success brought me a lot of stress, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of like heartache, just a lot of challenges. And now, knowing what I know, right? But I didn't know this at the time. I was like, are you serious? If this is what success looks like, I don't want it. And just like that, it all went away. So be careful what you say. So my goal is for you to hear this and to acknowledge and recognize if you haven't reached success yet, just know that when that door opens, that doesn't mean that you're in paradise and that there won't be any thunder and rain or drought. It just means that that door opened to something new that is going to challenge you to make you grow and make you better. Those things have to happen because it's not about the door opening. It's about you walking through the door, and in the process, from one door to the next, who you get to become, how you get to grow, the things you get to overcome, the challenges you get to experience, so that you can grow as a human being emotionally and spiritually. See, I didn't know that at the time. Now I know. It doesn't mean it's easy, okay? But certain doors have opened. And let me tell you, the last 8 months, certain doors have opened. And I've walked through them only to find a challenge, only to find an obstacle, only to find an adversity. And I'm like, wait, what? But because I now understand, okay, this is a process. This is a process, which is why, going back to with my husband, when I was sharing with him certain things, he got a little feisty with me and said what he said. All right. And I stayed quiet as much as I could. Okay. Until the end, I was like, okay, listen. Okay. But I stayed quiet as much as I could, not because I agreed and not because I was being weak. I stayed quiet because I understand that he is seeing things from his perspective. And I'm seeing things from the perspective that I am living in. Okay? It's like this. You can see somebody on a roller coaster, or better yet, you can see somebody playing a game. And you're on the bleachers, and you're like, hit the ball, go over there. But you're not on the court. So if you're playing like tennis, it's so easy to say, hit the ball right there in the corner, but you're not on the court. When you're on the court and you see the ball coming to you, that is like in that moment, you're like feeling certain things that the person up on the bleachers is not feeling. You're experiencing certain things that the people in the bleachers are not experiencing. And you are seeing the ball in a way that they are definitely not seeing it. So as he was sharing what he was sharing, I stayed quiet as much as I could, okay? Because I understand that he's seeing it from his perspective. But I'm on the court of my life. I'm on the field of this path called Karla's life. And only I know what I feel, what I see, and what I think, and what I'm experiencing. And I don't expect anybody to understand it because they can't. They're not in my shoes. And even if they were in my shoes, they're not in my skin and my heart. So I invite you to think about this for yourself, okay? Because I'm certain that you have experienced opportunities that doors have opened and you're like, yes. And then you walk in it and you're like, no. Okay, you're like, maybe not. Can I reverse this? Right? Like the Israelites were like, well, we were slaves, but at least we had food. Now we're free, but we're starving. Like this is called life. And, if we think that just because a door opened, it's going to be an express ride, that's where the suffering comes from. That's where the suffering occurs because you're expecting something only to realize you're receiving it in a whole nother way. So I wanted to share this with you because I am certain that somebody here that's listening to this, maybe either A, you have gone through this and you might still listen, I was in this story for a long time that success, it is painful, okay? Because there's a lot of uncertainty and stuff like that, but it doesn't mean you have to suffer through it, in it. Like you get to say, okay, now I think the door opened, I'm walking through it, I'm ready for adversity. I'm ready for pushback. I'm ready for declines. I'm ready for rejections. I'm ready. for whatever comes to me, the good and not the good. I'm ready. Where before a door would open and I'm like, where are the birds? Where is the stars? Where is the rainbow? Where's the sun? Like, where are the, like, where is that? And when I didn't have it, because there was an expectation there, that's where the suffering came in. So I share all this with you so that A, if you're going through it, you can understand that this is normal. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing, you're not doing anything wrong. You're not, you didn't, maybe you did, but if you know that this is not the right decision, okay. But if you know that this is the right decision, just know that God is not going to give it to you that easy. He's got to make you grow. And the only way you're going to grow is by having you go through challenges and obstacles so that you can become a better human being and you can grow, not just physically stronger, but emotionally and spiritually stronger. And the only way that's going to happen is that we have adversity in our lives. Now, I now know that. I didn't know that back then. So I pray that this serves you if you're going through it, or if you've gone through it and you're still in that story, like, what's wrong with me, right? Because I was in that victim story for a long time. And or if you haven't gone through something like this, when you go through it, be like, oh, I remember that podcast. This is normal. This is what happens, so that you don't suffer through it. Now, you're like, okay, Karla, this sounds fantastic. Okay, I get it. God wants me to grow, so he's going to challenge me. But how do I get out of this story? Okay, so look, I know that you're listening to this, but just imagine this, okay? Your life, think of a triangle, a square, sorry, a square, and just think. On top, put rules, on the side, laws, beliefs, rules, laws, beliefs. There's one more. Dang it, I can't remember. But anyway, there's certain things that there's stories, there we go. There's stories that you tell yourself that have you believe certain things, that give you certain rules, and then give you certain laws. So if you want to change that frame, it starts with changing the story. Now, it's easier said than done. I understand that. It took me years. But it wasn't until I understood a framework and a process and a strategy that helped and supported me in shattering that reality and creating a new one that things started to change. I would love to support you with that. Reach out, okay, at wakeupandunleash.com, or just, wakeupandunleash@gmail.com, or info@wakeupandunleash.com. There's so many ways you can get a hold of me. Reach out, and you can either A, have a conversation with me, B, join one of our groups, or we also have a self-paced program that you can do on your own at your own time. So we've got something for everybody. We got self-paced program that you would like. It's me teaching it. Okay. You can join one of our groups, which is probably one of the fastest ways, because you have other people to interact with and hear and learn from. Or you can do a one-on-one, which is obviously that's like the fastest, because we're just diving in, just you and me, to all of that and walking you through how to create a new frame, how to shatter your current frame in reality and create a whole new one. And I promise you, if you put in the work, it will happen. If you put in the work, it will change. If you put in the work, it will transform. But you got to put in the work. You can't there's no magical, I tell my therapist all the time, can there be like a little magical pill and then like, boom, everything goes away, right? If it were only that easy. But there's no such thing, okay? We got to do the work. We got to get through the process so that we can come out in the other end stronger and more resilient people and create that human being that God made us to be, which is why I created this program, to wake you up, wake up and unleash that person that I know that you have inside, that person that has the fire, has the drive, but for whatever reason, it's been gone, or it's been like on low versus high. It's been tamed because of comments and things that you have told yourself that have allowed you to hide, that have allowed you to not play full out because of what people said, or what they did or whatever story you created in your head that has limited you from being your full potential. And I know this because it happened to me. Like I like to say, more than one time. So here's what I will tell you. Because of the new tools and strategies that I have implemented, that I have been able to shatter that, and things that I have done on a daily basis, I've put in the work. I can honestly say that my fire is back. You can probably hear it in my voice, okay? The fire is back. And now it's up to me to make sure that it stays on, the flame stays high. Will it be easy? No. Am I going to have adversity? Yes. Am I going to have challenges and people doubting me and all the jazz? Yes. And here's the deal. I now expect it. I know it's coming. I know it's coming. So when it comes, it's not going to catch me by surprise. And that is the difference, my friend. So with that said, I hope this podcast finds you well. I hope it supports you. If there's anything I can do to support you in this or in anything, reach out. Reach out, because here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you this every single time we're here together. It matters who you're around. It matters who's at your corner. It matters who's in your ear. It matters who you're surrounding yourself with, because that is what you will eventually become. I don't care how strong you think you are and will be influenced by the people you hang out with the most. Now, if you're with somebody maybe once a month, okay, that's different. But if you're with somebody a lot, they will dramatically influence you, even if you don't realize it. But they will have an influence in you. So be mindful and design your environment with an environment that's going to support you, uplift you, and challenge you to grow and become better. And I would love for that environment to be us. If it's not us, find one. But I tell you one thing, don't do it alone. Because honestly, you just can't. You just can't. You need a team of people for anything you want in your life. So, like I say, I show up for you. Please show up for me. Please, if you're listening to this on YouTube, please like and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to this on any of the podcast platforms, please, download it, like it, follow it, share it with 2 or 3 people that this can serve. I would be so appreciative if you did that. So with that said, you guys, I hope this finds you well, and we'll see you next week. And don't forget to wake up and unleash that person that I know you have inside. Bye-bye.